What's up, everybody? This is Charlie from Charisma on Command, and welcome to the video on inner game and confidence. This is incredibly apt that I'm talking about this today because I actually just got off of a client call a couple hours ago. Just is a bit of an exaggeration, but I was talking to him, and this is someone who is incredibly successful. This is a guy in his mid-20s. He just sold his second company to a big company for a large sum of money, so he's very, very financially successful, has a girlfriend, has a very close group of friends. His life just seems to be going fantastic. And it is in almost every single way. But he had areas where despite everything that is occurring externally, he just doesn't feel like his most confident, charismatic self. And the times that he pointed out were, they're pretty extreme. Interacting with C-level executives at the new company. He's only in his mid-20s, right? Being thrust onto a panel to speak in front of a bunch of people that he doesn't know about something that he's familiar with, but just with a group of people that he is not familiar with, right? And he wanted to know, how can I take the confidence that I felt building my company, right? The charisma that I tend to have with my team, where does that go when I'm in these situations where I'm less comfortable, and how can I get it back? That is how we got our name, right? We are Charisma on Command, not just because we teach charisma, but because you want to have it in those moments where it most counts. And those are the moments when it tends to run away from most people. So today, things that we're going to cover in this inner game portion. First off, hopefully some paradigm shifting mentalities. Now, I know what happens with a lot of people is maybe they've had the same experience that I did. And I think back to when I was taking my first philosophy class. This is when I was a freshman, probably 7 or 8 years ago. And up until that point, I thought the point of every single debate and argument I got into was to win, was to convince the other person that I was right. And I'll never forget that my professor, freshman year, people were arguing in class, and she said, hold on, remember, the goal is not to be right, the goal is to get it right. And I remember just being blown away by this because my entire life it was about convincing other people. And the thought that the point of an argument was not to maintain my opinion, but to come out of it with the right opinion, whether it was mine or it was the other person's or some, amalgamation of the two, that was incredible. And that dictated how I've acted since then. So hopefully there's going to be a couple of those moments where you just go, holy cow, I didn't think of it that way. That's one goal. Second goal of this is to teach you how to use your body to get your feelings in the right place, right? The guy that I talked to today, he said, I have these situations where I know I'm making excuses. I'm sitting in front of these people and I'm biting my tongue and I know I should speak up, but I continue to make excuses because that's what I'm compelled to do. That's where my feelings are at. We want to talk about how to use your body to break that pattern so that your rational brain and what you want to do are way more in line with the way that is going to be most beneficial to you. Third off, I want to talk about how to get on a roll, right? Most people go out and they have an experience their evening or the end of a networking event. The last 10%, they're just feeling it, right? They're comfortable. We want to learn how to speed that process up so that it's the first 10% where people are actually feeling good, gregarious, outgoing, and so that can last for the duration. And then what we want to do is talk, this is a big one. Again, the guy that I spoke to today echoed this, which is a very common question I get. When I'm around superiors, people that I perceive as better than me, I just completely lose it, right? Everything that I have goes out the window. I'm like a puppy. I roll over, stick my belly up for the alpha dog to come in. We want to talk about how not to do that because those moments with superiors really can shape your life. And then at the end, we're going to go to the level that is the most wide spanning, right? This is not just confidence in a moment. This is confidence about yourself. It's the type of feeling that you have about yourself. And I have experiences where doctors will contact me and they'll say, I've got 8 years medical school, 10 years, I've never made a mistake, I'm a fantastic doctor, but I still have this nagging self-doubt. This is what we want to crush at the end. This is not related to any specific instance. This is just a feeling about oneself. And when you can get those problems ironed out, deleted, completely gone, then everything else falls into place. So, don't want to waste too much time on preamble to it. This is the first thing we're going to touch on. It's tactics, and we'll get into the deeper stuff towards the end. For tactics, here we go. So, 1984. University of somewhere in the middle of the country. I don't know exactly which one, Iowa, Illinois, one of those. There's a study going on, and it's this. The psychology department has invited students to come out and test their motor reflexes. So what they'd like them to do is they'd like them to answer some questions with their right hand, answer some questions with their left hand, and then answer some questions holding the pencil in their mouth. At the end of all the questions, they are going to show them a cartoon. They rate what they thought of the study in the cartoon, and they send them on their merry way, and they've learned so much about motor skills. Now, if you know anything about psych studies, it's that they're lying to everybody who has participated. This study was actually meant to affect, or study rather, the effects of how your body shifts how you feel and your experience of things, the emotions that you attach to anything. So what they were actually looking for was that moment with the pencil. You see, what they did was they gave some of the students the direction, I'd like you to hold the pencil long ways like this and sort of write your name like that. The other students they told, I want you to hold it this way and don't let it touch your teeth and sort of pucker up and write like that. And what they found, replicably, right, they've done other studies that have confirmed this consistently, is that the people who hold the pencil like this rate the study as being more enjoyable and the cartoon that they watch at the end as funnier. What's going on here, right? How come people who bite a pencil like this can feel differently than people who bite a pencil like this? The answer is then the musculature that is used to actually grip the pencil. When you do it like this is the smile muscles that are being activated to clamp down. When you hold a pencil like this, these are basically frown muscles, a kissy face, if you will, for what you're likely to see on Facebook or Instagram. But the idea behind this study that has come to the forefront and has actually been proven in many other ways is that the way that we use our body, even if it's unattached from emotion, even if it's just force, even if you just tell someone, stand there like this, will cause a physiological reaction in that person, like chemically measurable, not just on what they say. They've done studies on power poses. I believe she's a Harvard psychologist. What she did was she asked people for 2 minutes to just basic positions of power, and then she studied people who didn't do this. So a power position, think of anything that's very typical, right? You've got like the Wonder Woman with the chin up like this, right? I already feel really strong. They've got the classic boss, hands behind your head, legs kicked up on the table, and they measured what was going on inside these people's body, and they found that particularly for men, these types of boss positions, these power poses, increase testosterone, which is associated with an increased sense of confidence. So this is step one. What a lot of people don't realize is that they go out and they describe the situation of, so I was in this event and I just started to clamp down. I said, well, what were you doing with your body? They said, well, I guess my hands were in my pockets. I was kind of closed off like this. I wasn't speaking much and my voice got quieter. And that is not just the effect of feeling something in your head. In fact, the way that you use your body is also causing the chemicals in your brain that are making you feel that way. So if that person had simply shifted the way that they were standing, and instead of going out like this, they'd gone, okay, I got to open up, I got to smile, I got to stand here a little bit, and I'm not feeling it. This is the instance of everything that I will ever teach you where fake it till you make it has the most effect. Because yes, for about 30 seconds, you're genuinely faking it. But if you engage in a power pose, right, if you break that negative body language and expose yourself, stand like you would if you were really feeling confident, what actually happens is there is an undeniable chemical reaction in your brain that starts to make you feel more confident. It puts the testosterone you need into that situation. So this is going to be step one, and I see it all the time. I was just out 2 weekends ago, rather, with a client and a buddy, and he's from a town that doesn't have clubs like we do here in Las Vegas. And went out to this club, and I could see instantly that he was just taken aback. I mean, there's like circus performers doing aerial tricks. The ceiling is 4 stories high. It's dark. The strobe lights are on. He doesn't know anybody. It's super loud. And I see him start to, clamp up, lock up. And I clap him on the shoulder. I say, hey, man, what's up? And it's like a statue. Like that's how much tension is in his body. What did I do? I could have given him a pep talk, but I knew what would be more effective is I just drug him onto the dance floor and made him, against his will, dance like a goofball, right? Wave your arms, stand around, do the Dougie. It doesn't even matter. But by loosening his body, the effect was immediate, right? All of a sudden, he's laughing at himself, and then he can go out and interact more comfortably. This is not just because you're goofy. Like I'm saying, this is an actual chemical reaction that occurs depending on how you move your body. So step one is going to be to go to your body. And what I'm going to cover next is how to really put this sort of process on steroids so you can completely change the way that you feel in about 15, 30 seconds. The technique that I'm about to get into is one that comes from Tony Robbins. And I know when I say that, a lot of people of my generation and sometimes other generations as well, immediately get a bad taste in our mouth, right? Before I was ever familiar with his work, Tony Robbins was to me, he was the guy from Shallow Hell, the guy from Oprah, the guy who was on every freaking infomercial ever. I thought he just ran a cult. And I honestly don't know what compelled me to do it. But one day I was looking for some reading material. I think it just popped up on my Amazon, and I bought his book. The book in question is called Awaken the Giant Within. Super cheesy title, but I read it. And I have to say, that caused me to go read his audio tapes. And his audio tapes, listen to his audio tapes. And then after the audio tapes, I went and got a bunch of his videos. And now I am signed up to go to an event that I previously thought was completely cultish, where he stands on stage and people go absolutely nuts in the audience. But I'm taking a flyer on it because everything that I've ever gotten from him has been gold. And the technique that I'm about to cover is one of those things. So this is something that he's taught to Andre Agassi, Serena Williams, Bill Clinton, right? People who have inordinate amounts of pressure on them, who need to perform at such a level with no chance for redos, right? This is a skill that is going to help that person and help you now to choose how they feel so that you walk into that intense, high-pressure situation, or even just a situation that you'd like to do well in the state of mind that is going to most empower you. So that's what's coming up. Oh yeah, and I should say this, this next piece is going to require you to stand up, to move, to act. A lot of what we're going to cover, you can sort of do from your computer, you can do while sitting, writing, reflecting. You need to engage your body to get the full power of what's coming, or else quite frankly, you won't do this. So take the time. If you're watching this somewhere where you can't be loud and goofy for about 2 or 3 minutes, pause it, come back to it. Don't skip ahead, don't tell yourself you're going to come back. Do it in order. This is such a useful skill. So find some time. We're going to go into it now. All right, good to have you here. I'm glad that you found a space where you can actually do this. If you haven't, find it, do it, be honest with me. So 3 things. This is called an incantation, and there's going to be 3 things that we are getting to change our feeling, basically. The first is our body. We talked about if I'm to stand like here and talk really quietly, I'm eventually going to feel crappy, sad, dejected, and depressed. If I stand here big, I speak loudly, I gesticulate wildly, I spin around goofily, I feel more exuberant. So first thing is your body. Second thing is your focus. You want to be thinking of right now, first off, an emotion that you'd like to feel. So if we're talking about confidence, start to think of a time where you were really totally on. Right? Get something in your head, and if you're struggling for you, think of somebody you saw that was totally on. It's best if it's you, but if you have to, think of a friend or a buddy or even James Bond, right? Somebody who just exudes that to you. And then the third thing we're going to touch on is words. Like, what language is associated with this feeling? So I'm going to go through it with you. I'm thinking of a night, personally, when I went out and absolutely just crushed it. We were at this club, and I was on fire. I was talking to everyone. I had some of the most beautiful women that I have encountered in my life just hanging on my every word. It was an incredible feeling, and it was like, how is this even possible? So that's what I'm going to focus on, right? I'm sort of going back to that night. The next thing I'm going to think about is, how was I standing? And when I think of how I was standing, I was loose. Everything about it. So I guess I've been a little bit stiff as I talk to you here, honestly. Everything that I did was just completely comfortable and relaxed. I was teasing people. I'd bob in and out in conversation. So I want to start to assume that posture, and it's way looser than I have right now. So I'm going to shake it out a little bit. Definitely smiling at the time. I felt fan-freaking-tastic. And the language that I had associated with it. This is so go with what comes first. This is going to sound so egotistical, but it's what popped in my head, and you really have to stick with this. I was like, I'm a fucking god right now. That was how it felt. It felt like I was just running the room. So go through this experience. Think of the time. Start to assume your body language, right? And then what words, as you start to get, how did you feel in that moment? For me, it's like, I'm a god. What you want to do, and what I'm going to do right now with you, and to help you watch the change, is to go through those 3 things and just ramp up to right? So do it 3 times in a row. So I start to shake it out, feeling loose, feeling comfortable, and it's like, I am a fucking god, right? Do it again. So you add emotion to it. So I got the looseness. What motion am I feeling in that night? It's almost like a, fuck yeah. Find something. It could be a chest beat. It could be anything. So for me, it's, I'm a fucking god. Hit it again, cheesy as it sounds. So, I'm a fucking god. I'm going to freak out my apartment neighbors. But as you start to do this, and you can see I'm starting to feel more and more animated. I'm a fucking god. As you go back to this feeling, you place yourself there mentally, you move there physically, and you get this motion down. You can start to anchor that emotion. And yes, the first time it might take 2 minutes to get there. But as you build this up, it's called an anchor. Same way that a song that you might not have heard since high school can trigger feelings about that girlfriend and maybe a bit of sadness. This motion, this thought pattern, the pumping and the speaking, that can all be associated to an emotion that you want to have. So this is something that Andre Agassi does. This is something you see football teams do all the time without having Tony Robbins. They stand there in the huddle and they bounce and bounce and bounce, and then they freak out and they run out screaming. They have an advantage because of that, because they are fired up. They're in the emotional place that they want to be. And I'm probably speaking faster and I'm more fired up right now because I have more energy from doing that than I did 3 minutes ago. So go through this. If you've been doing it with me, fantastic. If not, these 3 things. Pick a time where you felt just extreme confidence emanating out of you. Second, embody it, right? Get it in your face, get it in your guts, get it in your hands and the way that you move and the way that you shake your legs. Third, associate some words. As you start to feel there, you're going to like go back to that moment and it's going to pop out of you. You're going to start to become less conscious of where am I putting my hands, and it's going to just, you're going to speak something. Stick with that. Say it emotionally. And then lastly, add a pumping thing or a chest beat or a rah, whatever it is. So I'm a fucking god, right? This is going to help keep you on. Honestly, I should be doing this before every take because it makes me more animated in front of you. Does make me speak a little bit faster. So I'll find a happy medium, but do this now. If you're watching this, you're going, that's goofy, that's cool, that's whatever. This is not an intellectual exercise. Do this. If you actually do it and you see how quickly you can choose the emotions you feel, you are going to put yourself on a next level ability to operate compared to everyone in the world who is just a subject to the whim of how they feel at any given moment. So please, for the love of God and for yourself, do this. So next, I want to touch on a mindset that might be a paradigm shift for you. I know that it was for me, and it's called everything is a rep. So the idea of a rep comes from, for me at least, the gym, right? If you go to the gym, you're familiar with reps. A rep is just a repetition. If I do 10 of these of bench press, right, or 10 push-ups or whatever, that's 10 reps. If I do 8 pull-ups, that is 8 reps of pull-ups. And the reason that people do reps and count the reps is because when you do the right amount of practice, basically, repetitions, you're going to get stronger in that exercise. You're going to develop that muscle group. What people don't realize is that this applies outside the gym, in fact, to everything in your life, because everything is a rep. If you start walking the stairs every day, right, and you walk, I don't know, 8 flights of stairs up, down, twice a day, you don't even have to go to the gym. You could still, but you're going to develop stronger legs just from doing that, because that counts as a rep. It doesn't just get locked into the gym. The same is true of social situations. When you go out and you spend your days and you're flat and you sit there and, you know, people come up to you because it's the same old coworker and he sits behind you, he's got the same old joke, and you're like, and you go through your days like this from 9 to 5, and then you want to come out and go to happy hour and take over the room, good luck. It is not going to happen because you basically just spent 9 hours practicing how to be boring, right? What a lot of people think that they want is to go out, be bored, boring, flat their entire day, and then walk into a situation with the CEO, the beautiful woman, whatever, the person that they really want to make an impact on, and just crush it. And it doesn't work like that. That's like asking to show up to a bodybuilding competition without ever going to the gym beforehand. What a lot of people don't realize, analogous to the gym, is that walking around, interacting with people during the day, putting energy out there actually doesn't drain you. What drains people is when they are boring or flat or don't engage with people. And I know that for a lot of introverts, this is like, wait a second, that's not my experience. You know, if I have to stay out there too long interacting with people, that drains me. There is a degree to which that is certainly going to be the case. But I can tell you, if you use the incantation stuff to get yourself in an emotional place where you're not dragging this out of yourself every single time, you can certainly do more during your day to take the normal interactions you have and make them positive reps so that you are more adequately equipped in those situations that you really want to crush it. So let's get specific. What does this mean? At a very, simply saying, it's not about turning it on, as soon as you step in front of the CEO. It's about choosing to turn it on for the next person that you see, because that is the practice round. That is the exercise that is going to leave you in a fantastic spot for that really important VIP, high roller, whatever. So now I want to touch on a couple of examples that I think will really drive this point home. Couple of examples of things and people, I guess no things, people that you can talk to and how to go about it. So when I go out at night, oftentimes I would take a cab, particularly when I was in New York City. And this was after a long day. I'd be home writing, I'd be doing blog posts, I'd not be speaking, I'd be there alone. And so when I would get to the club without talking to anyone, I'd be stiff. And there are these New York City clubs and they're daunting, right? Not a good scene. So what I started to do was to take the easy layup beforehand, which is the 15 minutes with my cab driver. And so I'd get out, I'd be awkward and uncomfortable at first. I'd say, hey, what's up? When is your shift end, right? Where are you from? They're never from New York. They're always from somewhere else. And I'd ask questions that honestly aren't fascinating or super interesting, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend at a networking event. But because this is, it's a cab driver, you have these experiences with these service people, these doormen, these people in your life that you almost don't even see. When you do this and you use it as an opportunity to practice, not just being charismatic, but being talkative, right? Expressing yourself, using your vocal cords, something funny happens. And it's that when I would show up to the club, all of a sudden I was friendlier with the bouncer and I was friendlier with the line people. And by the time that I got in, I was in a much better mood than those times when I would just sit back, show up, and all of a sudden, holy cow, I'm surrounded by people and I'm not feeling it. So that's one. Another very common experience. Interviews. So people show up to an interview, and on the big day, they're just in their head. They're like reviewing their resume, what I'm going to say, what's one time that I overcame adversity. They have all this ready, and they get in front of the interviewer, and they've hardly spoken that morning, right? Much, much better. Take the gimmies beforehand. So if you do take a cab driver, of course, when you get to the building, there's going to be a receptionist, there's going to be a secretary, there's going to be people directing you. Instead of just saying which way, hey, how are you? How's it going? I'm here for the interview. There have been a lot of people, like simple questions. Oftentimes they'll ask you how you're feeling. And I would say, truthfully, I'm really nervous. So they'd laugh, or, you're going to do fine, something, and responding off things that I've said in the past. If you hear me crying in there, you'll know that it really did not go well. So please call the police, have an escort ready. I'm going to need someone to take me home so no one ever hears about this. They laugh. You feel better because you've gotten a laugh. You're going to sit down then. Talk to the other applicants, right? Most people sit there and they're just weird and uncomfortable. Make some small talk. That is going to set you up so much better to get in that room when you walk in front of the interviewer. There'll be a real smile on your face. You're going to feel much more comfortable. You won't have the jitters as much in the shaking hands or the quavering voice because you'll have worked all of that stuff out previous. So important. So ask yourself, where are those moments in your life? Where are the people that you maybe aren't seeing? You're not using them as practice rounds, as free reps to get stronger in this charisma muscle area of your life. Take them. Right? Don't make it just about the big performance. Can you imagine if any sort of athlete or any performer or anybody didn't practice prior to showing up on the big day or the big night? It would be ludicrous. Yet people expect this to come from their social skills, and they're surprised when, wow, I don't really feel confident now. Plus, there are always opportunities, right? This has happened to me in my life before. I can't even remember all of the cool things that have come from this, but you never know who's around you. So I've had an experience. One that comes to mind is back when I was in school, I was just talking to the people in front of me and behind me at the Safeway, which is where I used to do my grocery shopping. And I wound and work at, I think it was like the World Bank or something, which was completely outside of my level of interest. But the guy behind me happened to be a director there, enjoyed conversing with me for 5 minutes, was like, hey, if you're ever looking for anything, like, here's my card, would love to have you, seem like a good kid. If I were smarter, probably I would have taken the internship there, but at that time, I just wanted to spend my summers doing really fun things. Point is, opportunities are everywhere. Most people don't realize this because they never make the effort to actually engage people that they're not like, oh, this is a someone. So take the freebies. It makes all the difference. Now I want to go into one of the biggest questions that I get, which is, what do I do when a superior walks in? These are the situations where I really clamp up, and these are the situations where I least want to. Like, how do I maintain the confidence that I feel around peers when I'm around somebody that I perceive as my superior, around somebody that maybe I'd like to move to their level? I'm going to get to this question, but first I have to talk about Chipotle. or honestly any restaurant that you go to, and this example will sort of drive it home. Think of how you interact when you walk into a Chipotle with the service people there. You walk in, you sort of make your way through the line. They say, "Good morning, would you like a bowl or burrito?" "I'll have a bowl." "Black or pinto?" "Black." "What kind of steak or what kind of meat?" "I'll have steak." Throw that on. The fajita's great. That'll be $5.96. Do you know guac is extra? Blah, 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 right? You know the drill. Or if you have any sort of place that you go to and you interact with the waiter, you've had this drill before. Think of how you interact, say, with a bouncer when you're walking into a bar or a club or anywhere where they ID. You walk up and say, "Hey, IDs, please." Stick me your ID. He goes back, "Okay, right this way. Take a stamp. It's going to be $10. You go on your way in. Now think of how you interact with the CEO or the superior or the person in your mind that stands out as the one that you would really like to be able to connect with, but you don't. You clamp up. So say it's a CEO. This is a common one. So it's somebody at your company. They go, "Hey, how was your weekend?" You go, "Good. Like watched the Eagles game, hung out with friends, pretty chill. How was yours?" "Good. Was home with the kids, got a nice outing. How's work going?" "It's going good. It's going good. What about you?" "It's going great. Awesome. Cool. Bye." Boom. Out. What is the commonality between all three of those interactions? I would put forward that it's this. It's that in all three of those interactions, you are treating the individual that you are speaking with first as a position or a role, and second as a human, if you treat them as a human at all. I mean, think about it. Burrito or bowl, blah, blah, blah. You're just moving through this autopilot motion. Bouncer, give me your ID, take the ID stamp, go. CEO, weekend, football, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some banal talk about TV. This is not how you interact with the people in your life. When you think of your friends and your family, like these autopilot interactions, sure, maybe they occur with the "hi, how are you?" but you quickly get into something that matters. This is the difference, and this is what you need to do, is not treat these people like robots. And honestly, what a lot of people do is they go, "Okay, but I still want to just do the CEO." What they don't realize is the problem starts with the guy at Chipotle. If you want to fix it with the CEO, you have to fix it across all of the areas in your life, or as many as possible, where you're treating people like just, functions of their job, robots, positions. So think of it this way, and I'll give you some examples from my own life. The Chipotle one. To this day, I've had a number of restaurants that I frequent, and whenever I go in, I will make it a point to walk up and say, "Hey, what's up?" And they'll go, "Okay, would you like a bowl of burrito?" I'll go, "I'll have a bowl, man. How are you?" And I'll go, "Good," because he's confused. No one ever asked him how he's doing. I was like, "Awesome. Have you been here a long time?" "Yeah, I've been here 6 months." I was like, "Cool. I'm going to be here every day, so let's be buds. What's your name?" Right? And so he laughs, smiles, gives me big scoops. I'm happy. I've done this at everywhere that I've gone to, just making small talk, banter, questions. What's your name? Where are you from? What you doing? Like easy stuff again that I don't recommend in a networking event. But what this does is it allows me to treat these people like humans, and I get free bowls and all that kind of stuff. It comes to me. The other effect that is potentially far more important is that I get out of the habit of treating people as functions of their position, so that when I encounter the CEO, I'm ready. Same thing with bouncers. I've talked about this before, but instead of just ID out, I'll make a comment to him. On my way out of the club, I'll stop and say, "Dude, that was amazing. I had so much fun here. Like, do you go out here? Where do you go out? Where are the funnest places?" Normally, they give me their card, they give me their name. I say their name the next time when I'm walking in, and I get in for free. Right? These are the tiny little benefits, but the biggest one is that when I do encounter that high status person, I'm not just thinking like, "What is your title? What do you do? How do I interact with you in this narrow realm of what you represent?" But I also realize that there's a person back there. They have interests, they have hobbies, they have stuff that they like to do. And I'll tell you, in my job, the way that I did this is I shared my interests and hobbies. So when the CEO of my first company, which was about 60 people at the time, so there was a pretty big gap between me, the lowest guy on the totem pole, and him, when he asked me the weekend question, instead of just, "It was good," I'd be, "Oh my God, I went to the most amazing party on Friday night. It was a blast." Now, I'm not shoving it down his throat, but this is what I was interested in at 22 years old. And I watched, his eyes would spark. You go, "Oh, really? Like, where'd you go?" I'd tell him about the places I went, and we developed a friendship. Then, he'd tell me about the places where he used to go, all the old haunts, how it used to be back in the day before he was married and when he'd drink a ton, right? We were able to connect on this because I was willing to go to the human level. Now, if I was genuinely interested in flag football or something else, I would have talked about that. But this is what I was interested in at 22, and it enabled us to connect. Fast forward a year and a half later, when I'm deciding that I want to leave my job to go to New York City, I go to him and I say, listen, like, Washington, D.C. is just not the place for me socially. Like, I'm unhappy here. I don't have a lot of friends. And he gets it. He gets it because for a year and a half, we've talked about this. So not only is he supportive of me moving, what he allows me to do is to go to New York City, maintain my job at the company, work remotely, and I get a raise because my position changed as I moved to New York City. It was absolutely incredible, but only possible because we had a human relationship. So ask yourself, who are the people in your life at the highest level and the lowest level that you routinely treat like positions? If you can start to break out of it, those freebie ones, again, the Chipotle guy, the taxi driver, the whoever, when you start to treat them as humans and see that, holy cow, there's a story here, they come from somewhere, they like things, you start practicing how to connect with those really easy ones, it becomes much, much more simple with that high status person. And the results at all levels are cool, whether it's free burritos, free club access, or a giant raise. All of that is amazing. So this is one mindset that is really going to help you not clamp up, not lock down when you get this superior, right? It's to see them as a human being. Now, you may be asking yourself, okay, I'd like to interact with these people as human beings. I have no idea how. I'm just so like flabbergasted, starstruck, whatever. Or can I just please have something a little bit more concrete? Yes, you may. That's why I'm here. So I want to talk about how do you get past the position, past the status, past the role, and to the actual genuine human interaction. Step one is you're going to need to break their pattern. If you don't immediately know what that means, the way I would describe it is you have to get past their habitual mode of interaction that is basically on autopilot. So think of the Chipotle person. Bowl or burrito, black or pinto, chicken or steak, right? They're just engaging every person that comes through that line. Honestly, they're off. They're autopilot at best. Bouncer, give me the ID, take the stamp. CEO, walking around, how's your weekend? Oh, great game, like totally. Any questions about this? Cool. See you at the meeting, right? They're not fully there. They're not fully conscious or present in that moment. So what you have to do is break that unthinking pattern and force them to actually like be here, engage you. So one easy way to do this, and this is going to predominantly work best with people a little bit lower on the totem pole, is to show interest. So you can walk up, and I describe this one, to the person at Chipotle and say, where are you from? What do you do? What's your name? You can just be genuinely interested right off the bat. We talked about this in first impressions, but this doesn't work as well with people higher on the totem pole because it doesn't actually break a pattern to show interest in them, right? There's a lot of constraints on their time. A lot of people are interested in who they are. So when you walk up to, say, the pretty girl at the bar, or even like the best looking guy if you're a girl or you're gay or whatever, when you walk up to the most desirable person there and say, what's your name? What do you do? That doesn't always get the best response because it's just the same pattern that they deal with all the time. So the second way to deal with the type of person that maybe has a bit more requirements and the showing interest is not going to work is to mess with them, right? This is to say the opposite of what is expected. So to give you a quick example, was getting my blood drawn, and it's very procedural, right? So it's okay, please roll your thing up, please sit down. Do you have any problems with needles? And I say, nope. I scream, I pass out, and then you get all the blood that you need. And she laughed a little bit, stuck me, took my blood. But after that, it wasn't as rigid. It wasn't as procedural. We talked. I don't even remember about what, but just about stuff that was unrelated to her drawing my blood. That exact same thing, answering in a way that is not expected, that is basically the opposite, that is a joke, that is the best way to break a pattern. In fact, that's what most jokes are. They set you up one way, and boom, you go a different direction. So think in your life, when you're being approached by that person of status, and you have this typical interaction, what can you say that would be the opposite of what is expected that is just a complete joke? So if they're asking you if you're prepared for the presentation, very simply you go, presentation? Uh-oh, right? And they'll go, wait, and then realize you're kidding and laugh. You can take whatever it is that they say the opposite, play it up a little bit, you will break their pattern, and then there's an opening to actually connect. And you'd be like, no, serious, I've got it done. Honestly, last night I was doing something. But now they're there with you present. They're actually in that moment. So these are the two main ways. It's going to be showing interest in the person typically for lower status people and people who don't have a lot of other people's interests, where it does break their pattern. And then, of course, messing with people. Two really, really powerful ways to help you actually connect. So now I want to touch on a mindset that most people do not realize that they have. And it's one that actively not only saps their charisma in terms of how other people experience them and whether they like them or not, but really it digs at their inner confidence and their sense of self. So this is an important one. And what I see so often is that most of the decisions that most people make are based on one question, and it's, how will this make me blend in? Right? They ask this question when they're determining what to put on in the morning, what clothes they should wear, what they should say and what they shouldn't say, if they should speak loudly or quietly. Right? They think of this even in deeper things in terms of, what job should I take? What's going to get me the most status and respect from people maybe that I know, maybe even people that I don't know, but will think highly of me when I tell them what I do. And some people go so far as to build relationships in their life. They choose the person that they date, sometimes marry, based on what they think will make them blend in better. Like, this is what happens all the time, and it's very sad. The thing is, if you think of the most charismatic people in your life, and I invite you now to think of a time where you were just looking at someone and they seemed so confident, so self-assured, and really charismatic. No matter who you are, no matter what you're thinking of, in that moment, in some way, that person was not blending in. This is the thing with confidence, is that it's not concerned so much with doing what every other person in society or member of a group is doing. It's much more concerned with expressing itself. And that's why we're so taken aback by when we see someone with confidence, because it's like, holy cow, what is it that confers this ability on them to not feel, or at least to put up with that societal pressure to blend in, and instead to do their own thing? So think of times in your life and ways in which, this is step one, and it could be as simple as, man, like, I realized I have the haircut. I went to school in the South. Every single guy in a fraternity it was comical, would wear the same shirt. It was a J. Crew polo, sometimes plaid, with khaki pants, and they all had the same haircut, right? Super, super conformist. It could be as simple as that. Or, like, are you in the job that you're in because you thought it would make you fit in? I have a buddy who I was talking to. He's in finance. He's probably late 20s at this point. And I was talking to him about what he wanted. Very clear that finance was not that thing, right? He didn't know exactly what it was, but it was definitely not the job that he was doing. And as we continued to talk, I dug down. I was like, so what would really excite you? And he thought about it, and then he got this, like, starry-eyed look in his eyes, I swear to God. And he looked up. He said, I'd really like to teach. I just love hanging out with younger people. I love the energy, and nothing makes me feel as if I'm contributing so much as when I'm passing on hard-fought knowledge to other people. And he sort of waxed poetic about this for a few more minutes. I said, man, like, why don't you do this? You've got to have at least $1 million in the bank. There are professors that make as much money or make way less money and survive their entire lives. Like, you're not going to have a yacht, but you can live comfortably with that salary plus what you've saved. Why not just quit now and go do that? And he didn't even wait a beat before he came back and said, I couldn't do that. I said, well, why not? He said, well, what would everybody think? And it's that mentality that holds so many people back. So what I want you to do is start to think of ways in your life and that this is your mentality. And I want to go now to 3 situations where you definitely want to start to break this. And you want to praise yourself for starting to break this. So the 3 situations are these. Don't blend in when it would be more fun not to, right? Don't blend in when it would be more honest not to. And third, don't blend in when it would be more morally correct to not blend in. So I want to touch on examples of all 3 of these, because I think this is really where it gets driven home and people start to realize in their own life how they can make these shifts. Starting now with times that you shouldn't blend in because it would be more fun. This is a personal story, one that that makes me smile every time I think of it. I was in Brazil. I lived there for a year. And I got there, and there was this American there who had been there for probably 1.5 years before we were. And we became fast friends. Fantastic dude. And so for Halloween, which is like 2 months after we arrive, we have this big plan. We order online months in advance Power Rangers morph suits. And they come in the mail, and I swear to God, we're like running around our apartment wearing these way, way before Halloween even came. We were just really excited because we had an entire group of people. I think there were 6 to 8 of us. We had all the colors and like a putty from the Power Rangers, all in morph suits. And we were so ready for Halloween. So on the night of Halloween, we found a good party that seemed like it was going to have a lot of people, put on our morph suits, like high-fived each other's hands off basically, and got to this party, walk in with a big smile on our face, and we get there, and it's an outdoor thing. And as we're sort of looking in, peering over the fence and seeing past, we realize this party is entirely in black. Because the way that they celebrate Halloween in Brazil is not like they celebrate it in the States. It's, it's like Day of the Dead-esque type stuff. Everyone is just wearing black. So we get there in our rainbow outfits, and 5 or 6 of us are just like, heck yeah, like we're going in here, this is going to be amazing. And the one guy who had been in Brazil for longer and wasn't as close with us at that point started to really get nervous. And I looked over and I see him start to walk the other direction. Like we're walking in, he's walking out. So we're like, wait, what's going on? We double back to the car, and he's starting to get into the car to leave. We're like, wait, what is going on? He says, I can't go in there dressed like this. There's no way I can like, oh my God, can you imagine what people are going to say tomorrow when they like see that I'm dressed up in a Lycra morph suit? Like, this is going to kill my social life. There's no way I can do this. I've been here for longer. I know how it is. Like, you guys, I just can't do this. He's like, legitimately, this guy is 6'2", 200 pounds. He's like a big dude, but is very visibly nervous to see what other people will think of what he's wearing on Halloween. And I'm just standing there baffled. We talked to him for a few minutes. We're like, listen, we're going to go in. You don't even have the keys. You can't even leave. Your option is to sit here in the car for 2 hours or come in with us and have a blast. So very reluctantly, he's like, okay, I'll go in, but I'm not staying long. I'll take a cab, whatever. Of course, we go in, we get everybody in. Not only do they waive like the $100 entry fee as soon as they see that we're Power Rangers, as soon as we get in there, it's like the paparazzi descend on us. Every camera, every person wants to take a picture because we are the people that stood out the most. And looking back on the entirety of my experience in Brazil, this was one of the most fun nights that I'd ever had because we had these Ranger suits on and everyone wanted to talk to us. So think of times where it would be more fun, and don't ask yourself, what will people think, will this blend in? Ask yourself, okay, would it be more fun to go to this party dressed in black? Or would it be more fun to go to this party dressed as Power Rangers? And that's going to start to move you in the right direction towards doing these things that are going to build confidence in yourself, make awesome outcomes for you, right? So think in your life, areas where you're blending in, and ask yourself, instead of, this is the big thing, instead of what will people say, what will happen tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Ask yourself, which would be more fun? And you'll be surprised how far that will take you. So now in terms of honesty, this is a very, very common question I get. And I'm actually thinking of a specific story from a client. So when I start to work with people one-on-one or even in groups, one of the pieces of advice that I give people is that when you're going out to a bar or to a club or to really almost any social event, if your habit is to drink heavily before you feel comfortable, stop. Because what that means is that you are not happy with how fun, outgoing, and comfortable you feel when you're sober by basically turning your brain off. That is not going to help you get more charismatic. So I'm working with this one guy, and he starts to not drink. And he sees immediate, benefits on his life. He's sharper in the morning, obviously. He has more fun when he's out. He's connecting with more of the type of women that he's happy to meet because he can sort of screen them more rather than go in the morning, what did I just do? And he's got one problem, though. He realizes when he goes out, then there's this pressure that he feels. And in fact, some people will come up to him and go, hey, man, where's your drink? Like, why aren't you drinking? Do you want to drink? Blah. And he doesn't know what to do. So he says, okay, the way I've dealt with it is I normally just get a drink of like club soda or water, and whenever people come up to me and ask me where my drink is, I just chug that and act like it's got alcohol in it and maybe act a little crazy. I say, whoa, like, hold on. I know that you want to fit in. I know that you want to blend in, and you feel this pressure from people to, do what they're telling you to not be the party pooper. But consider what would happen if you were just honest. And this is something that I've experienced, that I've told many people, and this is almost a universal reaction, even, yes, in colleges where it's like really heavily pressured to drink. What I tend to say, and what I encouraged him to do, would say the real reason that he's not drinking. And he could say, so I'm not drinking tonight, and honestly, I'm not really drinking that much. 2 reasons. One, I've been working a lot on getting more in shape, and I like to get up in the morning and go to the gym. And 2, I realized that I was using alcohol as a social crutch. And I don't want to do that. I want to meet people out that I genuinely like, not people that I enjoy because I'm drunk. And I don't want to be funny because I'm blacked out. I want to be funny because I'm a funny, comfortable dude. And so he took that and he said it. And of course, he came back, he's like, oh my God, like people's reactions were so amazing. We talked about it. They said things like, dude, I respect that so much. That's awesome. Like, power to you. And this is almost universal across the board. So not just in this situation, but in others where you're not fitting in and you're trying to like hide what the truth is because you don't want anybody to know about it. Think of these situations and ask yourself, what if I just owned the truth? What if people asked me why I wasn't drinking, for instance? I just told them the flat out reason. What you'll find is that when you get to that honest thing, you mark yourself basically as a leader. You say, look, I'm not going to fit in by doing what everybody else says. I'm going to be here and I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to do my own thing. And if you guys want, great. And if not, no problem. So look at your own life. See where you can see this parallel, whether it's with drinking or anything else, and start to answer in your head, how can I do this more honestly? What if I just said the truth and I owned it? What would happen then? The last part of this, not blending in, is not blending in when it would be right not to, or more moral not to blend in. So this is a story from a book that I read. It's from a book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. And in it, he talks about how important trust is. I agree 100%. We can talk about that separately. But one story really resonated with me. And it was about when he was in law school. And he's sitting there on the day one. He gets there. There's all these really smart people. He's a little bit intimidated. He sits down, and the professor hands out, like on the first day, a quiz or a test or something, and says, you know how we operate here. This is honor code. I'm going to leave. I'll be back in a half hour. You know, you can throw your quizzes on the desk, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So he leaves, and for a few minutes, there's a couple of murmurs, and it's clear this professor is not coming back. So what happens after 3, 4, 5 minutes? People start taking out their phones. They start collaborating together, cheating, right, on this quiz that is given based on the honor code. And the author, Stephen, is sitting there going, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Am I going to have to like cheat to maintain the top third ranking that I know I need to get the law firm? Like, how do I deal with this? Am I just going to have to study my brain away to compete with people that are collaborating and cheating? This is racing through his head when he hears somebody in the back of the room stand up and go, hey, listen, I worked too damn hard to get here. I left my family on the other side of the country, and I am not about to sit here and let everybody cheat while the professor's out. So if after 30 seconds everybody's not back doing this the right way, doing this fairly, I'm going to turn around and report whoever is still doing this to the professor. And people are like shocked at this moment. They move back to their seats. There's obviously some grumbles. But what happens very, very quickly is that this guy, and by the end of it, the author even says, he was the most respected leader in the law school class, right? Even after that moment, people who had cheated couldn't help but look up to this guy and see him not just as a leader, but as someone that they could absolutely trust to the end of the world. And he wound up, of course, in the top third of the class, doing fantastic and moving on. So for you, ask yourself, these ones are often tough because you sometimes have to call people out on what they're doing. Sometimes you have to stop yourself from doing the wrong thing, right? Everybody's doing something wrong. You go, you know what? This is not for me. I'm not going to participate in it because it's wrong to do, whether they're teasing somebody or something like that. When you stand up for what's right, yes, for a moment, you ostracize yourself from the group like that guy did when he stood up in the back. But I can promise you, for every bully or every person that's doing the wrong thing, there are 100 Stephen Coveys. Those guys sitting there wishing that somebody would stand up. And when you stand up and do the right thing, all of those people fall in love with you. So ask yourself, where in your life have you tried to blend in even though it wasn't the right thing to do? And what would happen and how could you deal with it to start doing the right thing? And honestly, ostracize yourself from people who are going to continue to do crappy behavior and build a circle of people that respect you for the way that you behave. To summarize, there are these moments in your life where you're really going to want to bring more consciousness to yourself and ask yourself, am I trying to blend in here? Is that my mode of being right now? And if it is, ask yourself, well, would it be more fun not to? Would it be more honest not to? And would it be more correct not to? Because if the answer to any of those is yes, stop blending in, right? In the case where it'd be more fun, go with it, right? Wear your Power Ranger morph suit, act like an idiot, deal with the eyes on you. Even if they make you feel uncomfortable, it's going to build long-term confidence for doing that. Second, when it's more honest, think what your honest answer is, right? Why aren't you drinking? Why don't you want to do X, Y, or Z? And then just present that. Again, really, really big confidence boost. And with the morality thing, all you have to do is explain why you don't think it's right, why you think it's wrong, and if for that person you're trying to get them to change, what the consequences of what they're doing are going to be, whether you're going to cause something to happen or it's just going to likely happen to all of these things. In the moment, it's going to feel like nerve-wracking, right? To be the guy in the morph suit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the purpose of talking about this is to bring consciousness to it and then break that pattern of blending in, because there's such a tremendous sense of self-esteem that comes from going, you know what? I wanted to be a sheep. I wanted to be like everybody else. Like, my feelings, my guts were wrenching in that moment, but I didn't. I stood up. I did what I knew was correct in that moment. That breeds such a sense of self-respect and boosts your self-esteem so tremendously, so that you have a confidence that truly extends into all aspects of your life. This is how we're getting deeper into what a real sense of confidence is and a real sense of self-worth. So reflect on those moments. Where are you blending in, and what would happen if you didn't? So something that I didn't expect as I sort of embarked on this charisma journey, and something that has happened that I continually get questions about from people who have known me, is what happened that made me feel so self-assured in myself? And it's not like I'm telling them this. I think they're just seeing it, right? The way that I move, the way that I speak, the way that I interact. I don't ask permission before I jump into conversations. I have this sense of assuredness that things will work out. I truly do not have that feeling of imposter syndrome. What if I'm not enough? What if I'm not worthy? What if I don't deserve to be here teaching people? And they see that, and these are very accomplished people. They go, how do I get that? Like, I've done everything that I need to do to develop my skill set, but I still lack this conviction in what I do and what I say and how I am. And reflecting on this, I realized there was really a turning point in my life where this self-assuredness came out. And it sounds like a BuzzFeed article. It's not what you think, right? It has nothing to do with building a skill set. In fact, what really made me feel so tremendously self-assured and build conviction in my life had nothing to do with my external circumstances. I got the majority of that self-assuredness when I finally left my job and started writing for Charisma on Command. And what happened there was I had spent 2 years in college, and truthfully the previous 4, fancying myself a writer. I would write on my computer all the time. I still have tons of unpublished things. I'd go home, I'd write late at night, and I would tell myself that one day I would be a writer. One day I would have the great American novel. But truthfully, other than papers for school, I'd never put anything in front of anyone, except for maybe my mother when I was 6. And what happened was that I could not have identified at the time, I could not have realized this cut at my self-image so profoundly, because I was lying to myself in a very, very profound way, in a way that was really core to how I saw myself, but I didn't know it at the time. So when I finally left my job and my paycheck went to 0 from a lot more money than that, I was sleeping on the floor of Ben's apartment. Like, my external circumstances were more unstable than they've ever been and than I ever hope they will be again. But for some reason, I started speaking, moving, acting with a tremendous sense of conviction. And when just a few months later, Ben and I decided to move to Brazil, intending to be the 2 of us, 10 other Americans actually wound up coming with us. Not even because we tried to persuade them, but because when they asked us about what we were doing, we spoke with just such this conviction that it was persuasive without even intending to be. And they left jobs that paid lots of money. They dropped out of school. One guy had just moved to New York City. He immediately picked up and retransplanted himself to Brazil, not based on any sort of sound plan, but of how much we believed in ourselves. And this is something that people want. And I'm telling you, it doesn't come from further building of skill sets. Most of the people that are watching this, they really have developed their skills quite well. It comes from getting your life into alignment and living with integrity, right? This is what was out of whack for me. My beliefs and my words, I'm a writer, I will be a writer, were completely out of whack with my actions, because I woke up every day and I didn't write. I went into the office and I did Microsoft Excel. That divide meant that my integrity was extremely low, which meant that my self-esteem by virtue of that could not be high. So when they came together and when all of a sudden I was, wow, I am a writer, I am writing, and hey, I'm not making a lot of money, but guess what? That's not a value of mine. That's not super important to me. Everything I did had 10 times more conviction. It was like it was bleeding out of my pores. So reflect on this. Ask yourself, and this, a lot of people, this is job, right? Sometimes it's intimate relationships. How have you seen yourself in the past? Like, what do you tell yourself that you are or that you're going to do. And I think, just to give some other examples, there's people who, potentially parents, right, who preach to their children the benefits of health and fitness, yet eat junk food and don't go to the gym themselves. There's the person that always talks about entrepreneurial ideas. Oh, what about this idea? What about that idea? And never does a damn thing about it. You might see these as idle distractions, but the truth is, if it's core to that person that they see themselves as an entrepreneur and they never do anything about it, doesn't matter if they trick every other person that they talk to. They know that they're full of shit. And if you can't believe yourself, you will not project into the world a conviction that is going to make other people follow you. And truthfully, you won't feel self-assured about anything you do because you know you are a liar. You know that you deceive yourself. So these are tough changes that we're talking about here. It can be with regards to fitness, like I said. It can be with regard to your job. It can be with regard to the people that you spend time with, the things you spend your time doing. Where are your beliefs about yourself not in line with how you're actually living? Where are your words, the way that you say you are, the way if you say that you don't talk shit, but you do talk shit, if you say that you're not into drama, but you're constantly causing it? Where are those out of line? You've got to bring those together if you want to feel self-assured and bleed conviction. So let's now take it from brain to paper, right? Where are the areas in your life where you are not with integrity? And what I mean by that is that the way that things that you think are important, you're not actually doing, or things that you're saying that you will do, you're not actually doing. Basically, where are you full of shit? Take some time now on, you can write it with pen and paper, you can just type it up in the background. Take a couple seconds, it'll come to you. Honestly, I'm thinking when I go out, I'm not always on as much as I want to be. And it's not because I don't know how. It's because I'm lazy sometimes, truthfully. I'll go in and I've told you everything that I know that I need to do, but I don't do it. And even though I'm a charisma coach, I don't hit it as often as I should. So that's an area where I'm still not in perfect integrity. I invite you, bring honesty to this, right? Step one is to really connect with what is true, and then you can make it better. Don't pretend that everything is right. Go ahead. I hope you've been writing some of these down right now. And then we'll give it some time here. I'll, do the little 20-second thing. What I want you to do is, for some of those, take a look and take one or two that are really the most important ones. Write down now, what can you do to get, and if the truth is, it might just be something as simple as, okay, I'm going to stop talking shit, or I'm not going to, speak poorly of people behind their back, whatever. It might also be, holy cow, I need to leave this job because it is soul-sucking. I will say that is a very, very common answer. So go ahead right now, go through what do you have to do to bring those areas where you're not living in integrity back into integrity, and realize what's riding on this. This isn't just, I'll have a more fun job. This is your sense of self. This is the most critical thing in your life. If you do not feel good about yourself, you're sapping your happiness, you're sapping your success. Nobody that is at a high caliber in their life is going to want to associate you. So take this seriously. What do you have to do to get back in line? All right, and here's the final question. Are you going to do it? This is what it comes down to, right? You've got to take this seriously, or you don't. Honestly, this is your life. This is your choice. I recommend you take it seriously, but truthfully, answer right now and say it out loud. If the answer is yes, say yes. I am going to make a plan to leave my job in the next 8 months and move to something that is more in line with my values. Or yes, I'm going to stop talking poorly behind people's back because that's not the kind of person I want to be. Or I'm going to start being more outgoing and more kind to the people in my life because I want to be that thoughtful, caring person. Say it out loud, write it down, commit to it now. You should feel a shift going on inside of you. This should cause a little bit of struggle, a little bit of strife. If it's easy as hell to do, you don't mean it yet, right? This should cause some resistance. And if you feel that, it's good. Overcome it, commit to it, say yes now, because this can change the course of just about everything. What we're really moving towards here is a different direction than we started at the beginning. At the beginning, it's like, okay, how can I actually feel confident? Which is a tremendous skill. Incantations, beating your chest, yeah, whatever, all that stuff. I'm going to tell it, yeah, that's going to make you feel better, right? As soon as I do that, I can feel, the effects of different chemicals being dumped by my brain into my body, and I'm going to speak louder and feel better about it as I go. My sense of well-being immediately rises. Tremendous, tremendously powerful. But I can tell you this is absolutely true. No matter who you are, there will be situations in your life where you do not feel in that moment confident. And as you succeed to greater and greater heights, right? One day, maybe you're standing on stage at Madison Square Garden and you've never done anything like that, and you're speaking or you're playing a rock concert, whatever it is, that's gonna make the nerves kick in, right? Or even on a smaller scale, right? Maybe there's someone that you just really, really respect and you'd like to go up and tell them about whatever. You bump into them and you'd like to tell them what their book meant for you or whatever it is. And you're gonna feel the nerves kick in, or it's a beautiful member of the opposite sex, whatever. The nerves will kick in. You can move your body, you're still gonna feel it. So what do? This is the giant shift. This is the most profound thing that I can tell you. And it's that you need to move away from worrying about how do I feel, am I confident, to things that you can choose. You want to choose to be courageous. Because the truth is, we know what's right. We flat out know what's right. As you're thinking of this, and I'm going through these examples, and you're thinking of times where you blend in, you know what you should have done. You know the way that you should have behaved. And maybe you can't control the exact outcome, but you should have stood up for what was right. And you should have expressed yourself, or you should have just had fun and forgotten about it. We always know what to do, but oftentimes we hide it from ourselves. And we tell ourselves, oh, I shouldn't do that because it would be rude, or that would be disrespectful for me to walk into this place dressed like this, yada, yada, yada. Deep down in our gut, we know what's right. And we hide it from ourselves so we don't have to exercise courage. Step one is to get honest with yourself. Be real about the areas in your life which you feel anxiety and fear. And oftentimes these are social situations. That's why we exist. The second thing then is to move your body. Great, like, whoo, yeah, get that stuff going down. You're going to feel better immediately. But third, when and if it will happen that it's not totally there, you've got to choose courage. You have to do it in spite of the fact that you don't feel totally confident. And as you do that, your comfort zone completely expands. I can tell you there was a time when Ben and I used to walk around and we would help guys go meet pretty girls during the day in New York City. Really fun. We'd walk around, they'd maybe meet some girls, get some numbers, they'd walk away feeling great. And we worked from guys literally who would go out, talk to 10 girls and get 10 phone numbers, and people who were much, much more nervous than that, right? First guys just, yeah, whatever, not a big deal. Like, that's cool. Thanks for the technique. And the other guys were like, holy cow, like, I can't do this. This makes me really nervous. And I think back to one of them. This is really one of the most exciting moments for me as a coach, is watching somebody do something that makes them afraid. And we were standing there in the corner of the West Village on a Sunday morning, and there was this girl in a red dress who was stunning. Everybody saw her. And she was sitting on a bench reading a book. And we're with this guy, and we go, do you think that she's pretty? And he has to go, very. And we're like, okay, like, go up, you can deliver a compliment, talk to her for a little bit, and see if she wants to give you her number and set up a date. And he just locks up. Like, he will not go. He goes full statue. I can't. What if people saw? She's busy. Super sad. What, she would never want a guy like me. Like, I can't do this. And we're like, man, you have to do this, right? This is your life right here. You're allowing anxiety over what some stranger right now might think to stop you from potentially meeting what could be an amazing date and a person that's important in your life. And as we're saying this, she stands up and starts to walk away. So we're standing there, we're encouraging him, and go, man, this is it. Do or die right now. What is it going to be? Are you going to exercise courage, or are you going to sit here and sit in your fear? And he looks back and he goes, ugh. And he darts off after her. The happiest moment for me is just watching him go. And taps her on the shoulder. We're watching from, 30 feet away at this point, just sort of standing there. Can't hear anything. And she looks back at him, and she's confused, shocked at first. And 5 seconds later, she just bursts into this, the smile that lights up the street. And I watch him, his body sways backwards. They laugh. They talk for 5 or 10 minutes while we just sort of sit there. And he comes back with such a swagger, right? So that's just such a cocky little smile. And he's got her number, and he's got plans to go on brunch with her. And it turned out that she was really fun to talk to. But as great as that outcome was, I always say the moment that I felt the most proud, and the moment that he should feel the most proud of, is when he decided to go, to do that thing that made him scared. Because guess what? You're not always going to get the outcome you want. It's not going to happen. But if you choose to exercise courage in the areas of your life where you feel anxiety or fear, particularly in social situations, you will become such a proud, confident, and high self-esteem human that everything in your life will start to change. So this has been a very, very unique module, right? This is one of the strange ones. There's no video breakdowns. We've kind of been all over the map. So what I want to do is really drive it back to the concrete things that you can take from this, put into action. Hopefully you've also had some mental shifts that will stick with you, but these are the things to do going forward. First off, when you don't feel confident, or even when you just like to feel a little bit more confident, go to your body first. Number one thing, open up, for the love of God. Neck up, these exposed, inside things, right? Like this, stand a little bit wider. This is going to immediately change how you feel, right? You can power pose it out if you want. Second, put that on steroids when you get the opportunity, right? If you have a moment backstage, or you have a moment in a club, or you have a moment where you just have some time to yourself, I actually like the club one because you can shout as loud as you want. Do an incantation, right? This is awesome! I am awesome! Right? You're gonna wake the neighbors, and the louder that you yell and the more that you pump, you're going to cause physiological changes in you that make you feel more confident in that moment. It really is. Number three, people always ask me about superiors in their life. How do I deal around superiors? Number one, no one is a superior in your life, right? Cut that word out. There are people that have more money than you, people that have more experience, people that have had more financial success, or maybe more success. I don't care. But no one is superior to you. And you aren't superior to anyone else because you have more of any of those things either. There are just people who have gone farther down certain paths than others. Get this idea, this hierarchical mentality out of your head. It's being thrust upon you by society. I get it. The one guy's got the window office. He seems like a big shot. He is a human being first and foremost, not some Greek god. Right? And this is what you need to realize. Not only is he not some Greek god, but the person who serves you at Chipotle, or the waiter, or the trash man, right? These are human beings as well. So the habit that you want to get is of destroying that hierarchy, right? Treating everyone first and foremost, not as a function of their position, or as a superior or an inferior, but as a human. So this is going to start on the ground floor, really, right? It starts with the service people in your life, the people that you see every day. Show some interest in them. Right? You're going to work on breaking their patterns, ways to do that. Show interest, mess with them. Really, really easy, but makes a big impact when there is that person that maybe is more successful that can help you down that road, because you're going to be able to connect with them like their friends do as a human being. Fourth, you got to identify the areas in your life where you are completely full of crap. Right? This is where you're living out of integrity with yourself. Those times where you're just not doing the things that you espouse, ways that you're not following up with your values. If you're being a hypocrite in some way, you say that you're going to go to the gym, you say you're going to start a business, you chastise people for doing something and you don't, you need to bring them in line. Either cut the words out, but if you cut the words out and you still believe it, you've got to change your actions. This is where self-esteem comes from. And then, of course, look to your life. Where are the areas where you can bring more fun, more honesty, or more morality to any sort of situation, where you can stand out in a positive way that is not only going to set you up as a leader amongst the group that you're surrounded with, but start to build self-esteem in you for the way that you behave. That's really the whole thrust of this confidence thing. Yes, you can get it in specific situations, but when you can build your sense of certainty in yourself, conviction in who you are and why you do the things that you do, everything gets easier. And that confidence isn't so dependent on who's around or who's standing there. It's really just, it's locked up inside of you, and you can blast it out to the world whenever you want it. So hopefully this has been helpful. It's certainly a unique module, but go out, do these things, and you'll see what it is to walk with more self-assuredness, more confidence, and more certainty, and more conviction in everything that you do. Lastly, and very, very important, if you ever need help with any of this and with any other module, I am at your disposal. So you can hit me up, charlie@charismaoncommand.com. If there's a specific situation, you're wondering how to be more honest or how to deal with it, like you think you know the right thing to do and want some confirmation, hit me up there. Even better, if this is something that you're comfortable sharing publicly, something that you think other people might have a problem with, or if you just don't need it to be private, put it in the forums here. That way I can answer it publicly at length, and other people can learn from it as well. So day one of the action integration section for confidence. This is one of the biggest ones that people ask about, and I think one of the most elusive, because so many of the other modules are going to have very concrete things that you go out and you do in your interactions with other people that are going to get the desired effect. Confidence, obviously, is a very internal game. So a lot of people are confused as to where to start because, honestly, there's not a lot of good material out there on that. Thankfully, for my own life and for you by proxy, I haven't come across some fantastic stuff that I want to share with you this week. Now, it's going to be in two parts, basically, and this sort of matches what we talked about in the Inner Game and Confidence module. There's two pieces to confidence. There's that in the moment, like how do I go from feeling, a little bit quiet, a little bit down, to just in a couple seconds or a minute, great. And there is that long spanning confidence. Honestly, it's closer to self-esteem. That feeling of being worthwhile, that feeling of high well-being, of just like having a sense that you are good and worthy of the good things in this world. And that is something that I would say there's even less information out there about how to improve and increase. Now, that's why we're going to start there. There's going to be a mix over the course of this week of, in the moment stuff, but something that I'm going to keep running in the background is this self-esteem stuff, and I want to touch on what that is today. But first, I want to tell you that I was actually just reviewing my notes in preparation from this, and I want to share with you that this is something that I actually did and participated in. I found a document from 2012 that is 19 pages long that has the first times that I ever did this exercise that I'm going to share with you. And I can tell you, my confidence is in another level than it was in 2012, particularly when I go back and look at the things that had me nervous, that had me unsure, the way I was feeling. This is completely a different experience for me, and it is very much based on the exercise that I'm going to share with you. So do it, right? This is so obvious. We're in the action section, but you have to do this stuff. So the exercise is one that I got from Nathaniel Branden, and he is a guy, he has written so much on self-esteem, and if you ever read any of his work, there's 6 pillars of self-esteem. He's got a book about that, but one of the best ways to build it up that he shares are these things called sentence completion. And he lists a lot of them, but I've gone through and selected the ones that have been most powerful for me. I was just looking at this document that I have and seeing where the best answers came from, right? So today I want to start with sentence completion around this idea of living consciously. But first, let's talk about what sentence completion is. Sentence completion is this idea that you're given the front half of a sentence. For example, the first one that you're going to get today is living consciously means to me, ... And the idea is that as fast as you can, I prefer like on a keyboard, or well, I guess you don't have a typewriter, but on your computer or laptop in a Word document to just type, because I can type faster than I can write. The entire idea is to go as fast as you can and write between 6 and 10 answers to this question. Now, no filter, right? Whatever comes out, the entire goal is just to keep your hands moving the whole time. If it's gobbledygook nonsense, all the better. That's how fast you want to be going. So you're not filtering, oh, I already said that before. It's totally fine if there's duplicates. It's totally fine if you look at it and go, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Everything gets dumped onto the page. Speed is critical here because oftentimes we hide things from ourselves. And it's only when you get into this flow of like blah, 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 amount of things to say, boom, that you drop a truth bomb on yourself and you realize something that has been holding you back that you weren't even really conscious of. So speed is critical here. And the idea is I'm going to give you 5 of these per day, 5 stems. You'll go through, write 6 to 10 answers, right? Second halves to these sentences, if you will. And that's it. So I can tell you the first question, living consciously, or the first stem, living consciously means to me. Just to talk about that word a little bit in case you're a bit confused. When I first went through and started answering this question, I had a lot of answers that had to do with being more honest, right? So living consciously means to me being honest with myself about my feelings, not hiding from myself the fact that I don't like the job, caring more about others rather than being so self-absorbed, not going through life on autopilot, but actually engaging and being present, right? These are the types of things that I came up. So that's not what you need to write, but that's just a starting point, right? This is what that sort of consciousness area is talking about. And then for you, the goal is going to be to write what it means to you, and you can apply that to specific situations in your own life. Answer this any way you want, right? The idea is that it's a powerful sentence stem, and your answers are going to be most revealing. So every day this week, we're going to have a new set of 5. I'll talk about what to do with this at the end of the week, but for this week, just go through and right now do this. This is the tiny action. You have to do this right now. Don't set a time for later. It should take 5, maybe 10 minutes max. Honestly, if you're writing fast, I don't even think it'll take that because it's just 5 sentence stems. 6 to 10 each, as fast as you can. I'm going to give you the questions just below this, starting with living consciously means to me. Now, the last thing that I'll say, and I'm sorry to harp on this point, this seems like such an insignificant thing, right? What is a sentence completion going to do with the way that you feel in front of your boss? And I can tell you from my own experience, actions that you will take and the realizations that you will have about the way that you've been being and the way that you would like to be, they fuel massive amounts of change. It is this stuff that made me, in no small part, leave my job, start a company, right? Travel the world. It made me end relationships and start new ones, right? I actually one day went out and I'd written, living consciously, or I forget what the stem was, but when I see a pretty girl on the street, striking up conversation. And I did this right before lunch and then went to lunch, saw a pretty girl, had this fresh on my mind, started a conversation, and then saw her for the rest of the time that I lived in New York City and still talk to her, and she's a great person. So cool things come into your life from doing this. Do not think this starts and ends with what you write down. That's all. I want to keep this as tight as can. The first day is always longest. There'll be more of these sentence completion as we go on. And tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to turn that confidence on in the moment. But this is baseline, right? This is self-esteem, which is why it's so important to begin with. So day 2 of the confidence action module. So in day 1, what we did is we started with self-esteem, and we're actually going to continue with that. So after you watch this video, not before, but after, there's going to be 5 more sentence stems for you to complete. So remember, the idea with these is there's going to be 5 of them, 6 to 10 answers or responses per. Go through as fast as you can. I recommend doing it on a computer in the same document because we're actually going to go back and review these at the end of the week, and I'll tell you more about that then. But when you're done with what I'm doing right now, go ahead and fill those in. In the meantime, what I want to focus on is shifting from the self-esteem side of confidence, which really has a lot more to do with how you feel about yourself, and it moves with you in all contexts, to how can you start to feel confident moment to moment, right? If there's a time in your day where you're feeling kind of down, or a person that you get around that makes you feel less than sure of yourself, this is going to help for that. But to continue with this, you need to have done the incantations. And I believe this is video 5. If you haven't done it yet, go back to the module, click it. It's called Incantation Walkthrough, and you need to do this. The reason is because unless you've actually experienced how quickly you can change and choose your emotions based on doing the action, shouting, all the entire 9 yards of the incantation, you're going to get less out of this. Because the whole point of this confidence section is that really we're choosing how we feel rather than letting circumstances dictate how we feel. So go ahead and do that. If you have already, let's continue. So the idea today, and what I want to focus on, is basically subbing out negative emotional and negative physical patterns for positive ones. And when I mean, negative physical pattern, what is that? Basically, the idea is that we have things that we do that cause us to feel certain ways. And I talk about this at length. But basically, when you go into work, you cross your arms, you sit like this, you're stuck all day, you're on your computer. If you start to feel down, it's not just because of what's happening to you. It's because of the way that you're using your body. And I can tell you with clients, I see all different kinds of physical triggers that lead to this feeling of tiredness or drainedness or lack of confidence. So, I've worked with clients who they do, like a big sigh before they start to feel crappy. Other people who tend to clam up and they don't move very much and they just get very rigid. Other people who look down and stop making eye contact, they start to get really quiet and they sort of just talk into their chests. They span the gamut, right? So what you need to do right now is imagine a time or a place or a person that you do not feel the way that you want to around, right? Maybe you went out to a party and you just completely clammed up. Maybe you have a boss or a coworker that whenever you interact with them, you're just tongue-tied and you don't say the things that you wish you had. So I need you to, for a moment, start to go there emotionally. And what that means is to basically imagine yourself in that situation vividly. See what you would see. Feel what you would feel. Say the things to yourself in your head that you would say in that situation. Oh God, please think of something. And most importantly, stand or sit like you would be standing or sitting. So once you've started to do that, you might find that you're going like this, your breath gets a little bit more shallow. Pay attention to the physical changes and continue to go down this line. Because basically what happens is that there's a handful of common things that we all do. People tend to cross their arms. I know I put hands in pockets. I play with my cell phone. Those sorts of things for me are not just indicators of nervous behavior, but causes of nervousness. So if I can cut out it, basically this is what I've done. If I'm feeling nervous, I do not allow myself to put my hands in my pockets or cross my arms. I have to keep them open. And for instance, when I was working in consulting and would have a review period, my first inkling as I sat down in the room would be immediately to cross up, lean forward, just basically defend myself physically. And by forcing myself to keep my palms open, this stuff, sit back, open my neck, it changed the way I felt, and I had a number of occasions where it changed the outcome of this process because I was able to be quick when responding to why did this happen, rather than nervous and uncomfortable. So you have to find what it is for you, and that's why I asked you to go there emotionally. What I want you to do is write down 3 things, right? So it might be the way that you stand. Maybe you clamp up. Maybe you start to speak a little bit more quietly, a little bit slower. Maybe you lose eye contact with the people that you're talking to. Write down the 3 things that for you are going to be indicative of that state that you don't want to be in. Very cool. So let's get out of that now and do the reverse. Think of a time where you felt not just self-assured or relaxed or comfortable, but like extremely confident, certain, right? And if this doesn't come to you immediately, think of a time where you were energetic and people were just sort of like sucked into what you were saying. This can be a friend, this can be somebody that you work with, it can be a presentation that you gave that you killed. And go back and think, and worst case scenario, if you're having a hard time, think of someone that you know. It can be a movie character, it could be a friend, but I want you to assume that body language, posture, tonality right now. Breathe like you would breathe in that situation, or like that person did. Stand like they did. Make the kind of eye contact that they did. And you can even just be looking at the wall right now. That's totally fine. But what you're going to find is that it has a very different shape in how you use your body. So again, what I've seen with clients is that sometimes they'll sit very asymmetrically, like they're just chilling, they're comfortable. Other times they'll start to use their hands in a much more wider fashion, whereas before they're talking like this in this kind of area, they'll start to bring it out and they're much more expressive with their hands. Almost always, volume goes up and tone decreases. So instead of talking like this in a bit of a higher voice that's stuck in your head, it just becomes louder, more resonant. This is how they're talking, and they don't get interrupted as much. So as you go there, what I want you to do is notice 3 things that you do. Maybe your hands wave, maybe your voice gets deeper. Write down the 3 things that for you are the most closely associated to this feeling, not just of confidence, but of dead certainty and conviction, right? And it might even be that motion, it might be a clap, it might be anything. Write that stuff down now. So what you should have is, on the one hand, a list of 3 things that are bad, and on the other hand, a list of 3 things that are good. What I would like you to do is think of some time in your day where you're watching this at night for the night before to encounter a situation that is going to make you feel less than confident. And if it's just, maybe there's someone in work, but maybe it's just you start to feel tired or bored or like lazy after lunch, right? And where you're going to start to like sit forward, hunch forward, and maybe not lose confidence, but sort of lose gregariousness with people. So think of a time that's coming, set that trigger for right beforehand. So see what you see before that moment in your day. If it's a person, imagine seeing them and immediately having this thought pop into your head that you're going to flip-flop the bad things for the good things with your body, right? So set that mental trigger, and then what I want you to do is, in that situation, immediately take the 3 behaviors that you're not doing and break them. So right, hands come out of the pockets, you got to talk louder, and start to do the 3 things that were good. So maybe that means that, okay, well, I got to talk loudly, so now I have to speak, I have to move my hands a little bit, and I have to smile. So I walk up to my boss, and instead of being like, hey, how's, yeah, work's good, I'll be like, yeah, work has been going pretty well, things have been great so far. It can be the same content, but as long as you're moving your body differently, you're going to notice a change in a matter of seconds or minutes. So that is the mission for today. Substitute crappy body language for good body language, not just for the benefit of the other person, but for your own mental state. Because all of confidence really comes down to emotional mastery. Can you control how you feel in high pressure moments? And this is the way that you do it. Your hands out of your pockets or break whatever bad patterns you have, do it. But the focus, as always, is just on one time to get the ball rolling. So in day 2, what we actually did was we broke your own pattern, right? We said, instead of doing this, we're going to do this. In day 3, what I want to try with you is to break someone else's pattern, preferably someone who makes you a little bit nervous. And I'll talk more about that, but this can be someone who is someone just at like Chipotle or something because you're a little bit uncomfortable when you walk in there and they're a stranger, or if that's comfortable to you, maybe it's someone that you work with, someone at school that you would like to impress, someone that maybe you'd like to date, somebody that normally makes you clamp up. We're going to focus on breaking their patterns. Because here's the thing. So many of us go through life on autopilot. And when we're lacking confidence, we sort of just default to that autopilot. We just shut off, stand there, be quiet. We allow them to run on autopilot, and nothing good comes of it. So yesterday, we broke ourselves out of that. Today is going to be about shifting them. And the idea is that when you start to get these little victories, and no longer is it just you engaging them on complete and total autopilot, but there's actually interaction going there, no matter how brief it is, that gets remembered by you. That gets stored, and you're like, wow, like I can do this. You build up enough of these small little victories, and your confidence cannot help but shift. Because it's your reputation with yourself, and you know, wow, I've done this in the past, therefore I can do it in the future. Same thing with riding a bike, same thing with everything that you've learned. That's how confidence is built. So let's get a small victory under your belt today. So pick a person, right? It can be someone that you're likely to see at lunch, someone at work. Even if you're just like, you know what, I don't know who it is, but I'm generally uncomfortable talking to strangers during my day or classmates, whatever, set the location that you're going to do this. And then your goal is when you're interacting with that person, or maybe you don't normally interact, you just wave or say something, what your goal is to break their pattern. And again, talked about this at length in the modules, but there's a couple of ways. You can do it with enthusiasm, you can do it by messing around with them. Pick whichever one and think in your head what's going to be the best way to do this. So at Chipotle, maybe ask the guy what his name is and be like, dude, you are the best scooper ever, thank you, right? And he'll laugh. You know that you've broken someone's pattern when they just don't engage you in the same exact way that they're used to, right? Instead of saying black, pinto or black and chicken or steak, they laugh and tell you their name and ask you yours. That is a good sign that you have broken a pattern. So that's day 3, very simple. Of course, at the end of the day, or pardon, right now at the end of this video, you're going to go in and do the sentence completion exercises. This stuff needs to continue in the background, 5 new stems, 6 to 10 responses per, as fast as you can in the same document so we can review later. Totally okay if there's duplicates. In fact, that's what we're looking for. So that's day 3. Go ahead and get to that. And then right now, do your sentence completions. All right, so day 4. We've gone yesterday, we got a couple wins under your belt. Now I want to go back to mindsets. Back and forth is the way that I like to do it. Of course, at the end of this video, go down, do your sentence completion stems. This is something that I did literally for weeks back in 2012 when I started. And when I go back, I cannot even describe the impact that it has made when I look at the mindset that I had then versus the way that I feel today. It is incredible the amount of growth that you can make just by doing these. And then tomorrow we'll talk about what exactly to do with them. So, sentence completion later. For now, what I want to do is actually something that I introduced to you earlier in the first impressions module. And it's this idea that the words that you use actually impact your experience of your own life, right? So when you walk up to someone and they ask you how you're doing, you say, I'm good, man, I'm good. Instead of being good, if you're, I'm phenomenal, man, how are you? That actually doesn't just change what you're saying, it changes how you feel about your day, particularly if you make it a habit and that's consistent. So what I want to do today is start to identify maybe some words that you're using that are making you feel less good than you could, and words that you could be using that are going to make you feel better. Because again, confidence comes down to emotional control. If you can control how you feel, you can choose to be confident, high energy, positive, rather than feeling down in the dumps and stressed. And I can tell you, I see this all the time. 2 people who work the same job, right? They come home from work at the end of the day, they get there. First guy gets home, you ask him how he's doing, he goes, oh my God, I got work to the bone today, so stressed. Okay, like, sure. But as soon as he says those words, that is his experience of the day. Versus somebody else comes home and you ask them how to do it, they say, man, like it was a little bit harder at work today, like I'm excited to unwind. That phrase, right, which they've actually been repeating to themselves the entire day, make no mistake, this isn't just what you say to other people, it's what you tell yourself in your own self-talk. That's going to affect how you interpret the same exact events. That somebody else might be furious, pissed, stressed, and you can be light as a feather, happy, comfortable, and confident. So, step 1 for this. This is a tool that I learned from Tony Robbins. Huge debt of gratitude to him for this. Write down, now if you would, all of the emotions that you are likely to feel in 1 week. And if you want, you can even pick the past week. So go ahead, get your word processor, right? Get your pen and paper, whatever it is they're using. You need to write these down, though. It's not enough to just say them in your head because I need you to be able to look at them. So start writing. And if you're curious, like most people have happy, blah, 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 whatever words that you have, I'll give you 15 seconds now. I'm just going to sort of twiddle my thumbs here and let you go ahead and do this. Too, because that's how I feel right now, standing in front of a camera and not being able to say anything. Cool. All right. So if you need to, continue to finish writing, wrap them up if you would. But the idea is, look how many you have. Now, most people tend to tap out around 10 or 12. And what they don't realize is that's not just 10 or 12 words that you have. That's 10 or 12 emotions that you're going to allow yourself to experience, because the words play a huge impact on how you actually feel about your life. So then look at them. If you split them up and you put bad ones on one side, good ones on the other, what you're likely to see is that maybe you have an even split of bad and good. And in terms of intensity, they're equally intense. So that means in your life, you can be, happy, positive, fun, but then at the same time, during the same day, you're going to feel stressed, tired, worn out. That kind of sucks on the whole. So what we want to do is we want to make the bad words, the bad emotions less intense, and the good ones more intense. And now this isn't to say that you need to deny the experience that you're having. A lot of people mean like, oh, so like if I, walk in and a bird craps on my head and I get hit by a bus and then I find out that I lose my job, I've got to tell everyone I'm phenomenal. No, but when you choose the word that you have to describe it, you are affecting how you feel about it. So if you say, my life is over, okay, that's good feel. But if you said, man, today has been rough, like it's going to be difficult to get back on my feet, but I can, that is a completely different emotional state that you're in. So take the bad emotions. And what I want you to do is, if you need a thesaurus, go ahead, but find words that are going to be similar to the ones that you might have written down, but for you are less intense. So for instance, if you have annoyed, right, what is a less intense way that you could express or feel annoyed? Honestly, something that makes you chuckle is going to be really powerful. So maybe you're a bit peeved, right? Or instead of sad, you're like, kind of worn out. Whatever it is for you. If that's more intense, don't do it. But pick words for you that are going to be less intense than the bad words that you have. On the other side, you can do this now, you can do this after the video. Take the good words and make them more effusive. So instead of happy, be ecstatic, fantastic, phenomenal. Instead of excited, be thrilled, right? And when you write these down, it's almost impossible to say phenomenal in the same way that you say happy, right? They're just different feelings. So pick the words that for you have a much more stronger or a much stronger emotional impact. And then the idea is, similar to like we did with the first impressions, find a time in your day where you are likely to use either the bad words or the good words. Maybe it's when people ask you how work went. Maybe it's when people asking you how your project is or what's up with the relationship or what's going on in your life. Figure out a time where you are likely to use one of these words, right? Of course, with the tiny habits, if you can do this all day and switch out the good ones for the better ones and the bad ones for the not so bad ones, that's amazing. But I know that's not the goal. The goal is once. So pick a time, set the trigger, and then sub out the word for the new replacement word. And what you'll find is as you build a habit of doing this, you're building a habit of choosing your emotional state. So instead of being really nervous and coming up in a event that you might normally do that in, you can be a little bit uncomfortable but excited. And that is going to affect how you feel, which will trickle down right to your confidence. So fill these out if you've not yet done that. And then, of course, go back to sentence completion, because tomorrow we're going to touch on what exactly to do with the answers. So, final day of confidence. Honestly, this one is my favorite, because the thing about confidence is, of course, everything. People want quick fixes, right? They want to snap their fingers and instantly make first impressions that are amazing, talk comfortably, feel confident and amazing the whole time. And I get it. Like, I want to give you as many tools as you can. The incantations are great for changing how you feel in the moment. But the difference between confidence that is not just on-off, but that stays with you forever is self-esteem. And that's what these sentence completion stems that we've been working on are hoping to identify. So before we continue, go ahead and pause this and do the 5 stems at the bottom of this video right now. To 10, as fast as you can, you know the drill by now. But go ahead and pause before I go on. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video. We're back to the action for just doing these stems. And the reason that we've been doing these stems is because what they actually help you to do is identify areas where your actions are hurting your self-esteem. I could tell you when I was first doing this, there was a number of things, and I mentioned this, but I was in a job that I was not, it wasn't even that the job was so bad, but it was that I had, I thought of myself as a writer. I thought of myself as an entrepreneur and somebody who made things happen, but I was following a very conventional path. And I sort of knew that in my head that was upsetting me, but when it's looking at me in the face in all of my sentence stems, like if I took more responsibility for my life, I would start my own business and leave my job over and over and over again. It's tough to deny the impact that has. Because when you're not living up to your own self-concept, the idealized version that you have for yourself, your confidence naturally decreases. And that's not just how you feel about yourself, that's how you interact in any event with other people. And I can tell you, when I started to, one by one, take the things that I was seeing in those sentence completions and actually change them, right? So I left my job. One of the other things I remember, there was a day where it was, if I was more self-aware, I would speak to pretty girls when I see them in lines or the street or wherever I was in New York City. At least try to start a conversation. And I wrote this stem right around lunchtime. I went out to Whole Foods, and in there was this like special food stand, and there was a really pretty girl working it where I always went and got my sweet potato casserole. So I went, I flirted with her for a little bit. I got the sweet potato casserole. It was fun, it was exciting, and then I came back home, and I realized, one, that I actually hadn't gone as far as I wanted to. I was thinking, you know what, I could have done better. I could have at least asked for her number. And then two, I realized that I left my sweet potato casserole at Whole Foods. So I had to go back and pick it up. But when I did, I made sure, I said, hey, like this is completely out of the blue, but you seem like a lot of fun. Like, would you want to go out dancing sometime? She gave me her number, we went out, and I saw her for the rest of the time that I lived in New York City. She's a really cool person and someone that I still speak to today. The entire reason that this happened is because I was hyper aware, thanks to these sentence completions, of the areas in which I was letting myself down. And by having them look me in the face rather than being able to hide in the background of my brain, I was inspired to action, which I got to tell you, once I did that, I was on cloud nine for the rest of the day. And that affects your confidence all down the line. So what I want you to do is pick one thing that is recurring in your sentence completion stems. Maybe it's with regards to your health, right? Maybe you're like, you know what, if I took more responsibility, I'd be hitting the gym more, I'd have a trainer, whatever. Maybe it's with regard to your job. You're like, I would not accept the job that I have, I'd start my own business, whatever. Maybe it's a relationship. You're like, I would tell someone how I really feel, or I would get out of a relationship. All of these things, completely wonderful, but pick the one that you look at and you're like, man, that one jumps out at me. This one scares me. This one is important. This is the one that I'd like to shy away from. Pick that one first. And what you're going to do right now is do one thing that commits you to making a change in that area. So if you're thinking about, your health is an issue, right now, pause what you're doing, session, right? Go ahead, the local gym will have it, they'll have a free session. Just make sure that you do that. And the best way to do this is with accountability, which is why you're going to ask a trainer to do it. Or if your friend is a trainer, you email them, say, hey, can we set something up like next Monday or Tuesday where you take me to the gym and show me around, or help me with my diet. It's not just you think, oh yeah, I'm going to do that in the future and I'm committed to it. You need to take one step right now. And the best way is to reach out to another person who's going to hold you accountable. If you're thinking about a business thing, right, like you need to leave your job, you need to start something entrepreneurial, think, who in your network can you reach out to get lunch with that can start you down the line, and send them an email. You've got to do something right now, because the truth is, it's scary to start doing this stuff. To push your comfort zone is tough. If it wasn't, you'd be in the job, you'd have the body of your dreams and the life of your dreams and the charisma of your dreams. It would all be done for you. So you've got to make one move that commits you to it in the future. And I can tell you, if it's a business thing or something, reach out to me, but also pick someone in your face-to-face social circle to do this, because they will help you. All right, so that is your goal. And you can also set down, if you want to, a time-bound plan, right? If you're like, I need to leave my job within 4 months or 6 months, or I need to lose 20 pounds in the next 5 months, or whatever it is, right? And what I recommend that you do for this one more than anything is go to the forums and write this in. Write what your commitment is, write what your goal is. Because we can help you sort of to tweak, wait a second, that goal is a little bit too ambitious. You're not going to lose 20 pounds in 2.5 weeks, right? You're not going to quit your job in a month. You need to do some work beforehand. So go there, and particularly if you have any questions, you're like, you know what, I don't know what a small action to take right now, which will commit me, is, go to the forums, write that in there. That will help, but at least try something. This is so fundamental. there's probably 2 or 3 things maybe that are jumping out at you from your sentence completions. And I tell you, more than anything that you can do for confidence in terms of banging your chest or talking more loudly, if you get these things in line with your self-concept, you are going to feel about yourself so incredible. And that doesn't just affect how you feel about your job. That affects how you look people in the eye and how you basically feel about everything that you interact with. So it spills over in a very, very profound way. Do not neglect this. This is so important. I will be very active in the forums for this one, so make sure to share there. Let us know what your commitment is, and let us know what you're going to be doing.